Hello Reapers, my name is Seth and we are back again for some more PixARK news. I know it's been a while since we ended up actually talking about all this PixARK stuff, and despite the fact that we are going to mostly be highlighting and talking about the release date in today's video, we're probably going to talk about that nearer to the end. So if you're interested in that, you can always just skip to the end of the video, because I want to take this opportunity to look at some of the more recent screenshots that have actually been posted, as well as a couple old ones that I ended up scouring the internet and finding, and some of the stuff that we get to see is fairly interesting, but it wasn't really cool enough that I wanted to do a full-on video about it. So talking about the game's release date as well as looking at these screenshots seems like a really nice opportunity for us to actually end up getting into this stuff, right? So first of all, we get to see this weird Aztec temple right here, which was on a tweet that they ended up putting out talking about like player builds. So not exactly sure if this is going to end up just being a player build, or is this going to end up being something that the developers ended up building and are going to end up having generate in the game's code? Like, I would love to see full-on dungeons generate in the game where you can go in there, fight mobs, get treasure and stuff like that, and ultimately fight the bosses of the dungeons and fight them again and again and again, because I think that that would be something that would really add to the replayability, where you could just kind of farm specific areas. Maybe only certain resources could spawn in like the dungeons, like you would have to be able to fight them, like fight certain bosses in order to end up getting some rare gear in the game. Not exactly sure if PixARK is going in that direction. Honestly speaking, I think it's going to end up being the same as ARK. And to everybody that keeps on asking, you know, and saying like, PixARK looks like it's a ripoff of ARK, it's being made by the same developers. I also want to answer one last question here that so many people keep asking me on the channel. Am I going to do a Let's Play series of PixARK? Yes, most definitely. Am I going to stop playing Trove for PixARK? No, most definitely not. I'm going to have both of those on the channel very, very mainly. Like, PixARK is going to end up being a very big game when it ends up coming out. And I'm super duper hyped about it and really cannot wait to start playing it. So we got another screenshot right here of a couple people actually being out in the mines. We get to see a first person view of the flare gun. We get to see in the top left a flare actually being launched as well as emitting light. But what's all the fire going on? I don't know what that's all about, because we actually get to see kind of in the middle of the screen here that it looks like there's either two other players or two mobs that are being set on fire. Potentially this guy on the left is actually using a flamethrower. It kind of looks like he is, but I don't know whether or not that would actually be a thing. Most of all, I'm expecting this is probably like flame magic or maybe a Molotov or something. Not exactly sure, but we do get to see there are quite a few differences in the amounts of ore that we see generating in just this one cave alone. So really excited to see how in-depth the game ends up actually going with its ore and how many things you can end up actually getting out of them. Now we get to see a desert biome. Very beautiful. We kind of already knew that deserts were going to be a thing, but it's nice that we get to actually see like one just blatantly outright that actually generated with what looks like a cave in the background. On the left side, we do get to see a better screenshot, even if kind of from the side, of a scorpion. They are going to be a fully tameable mount similar to ARK. And then on the right side, we get to actually see a little bit of the bamboo creeping in. So that's going to be in the bamboo biome. If you actually look at the screenshots on Steam, you can see there's a panda kind of hanging out. So I'm guessing that lovable creature is going to be tameable as well. Most likely end up hanging out in that biome. Then we get to see this screenshot right here. Nothing spectacular about it. Get to see a dude in normal armor with an assault rifle, which we've already seen before. And this creature right here, which is really, really blue and really, really strange looking compared to its ARK counterpart. I'm assuming that this is going to end up being that ARK creature that I always called the skin giraffe, just because that's what it looks like. But you know, it kind of looks a little bit strange and a little bit more derpy than the one from ARK. So maybe this is actually just a different creature, if not a new one altogether. Not exactly sure. This screenshot, I think I'm overanalyzing, but is that electric magic? I think it is, because we've got this dude with a rocket launcher, and clearly this electric video effects is behind him, because you can see based on his shadow, he's actually on this axis right here, whereas the lightning is kind of behind him going into the blocks in the background. And we get to see this little bit of video effects hanging out right in front of this mage girl character, which tells me she must actually be shooting electric magic in this direction, maybe to try and fight these guys, because we get to see there's another guy back here that you can barely see. But the reason why this is exciting is because this is the first time that we've actually seen anything referencing electric magic. We've seen fire magic, we've seen water magic, we haven't seen electric magic, which does make me excited because as far as I know, with the way that the game is being developed, based on what we saw with the wyvern combat, where they ended up actually taming a wyvern, not by grabbing its egg, mind you, but by knocking it out with electric arrows, it kind of gave me the suspicion that electricity in the roleplay of this world was going to be how you're stunning and locking creatures in place so that you can tame them, as opposed to if you end up going down a different tech tree, you're probably going to end up going for tranquilizers, or maybe it's going to be that you're going to use stun guns and electric bullets and stuff like that, right? So it's cool that we get to see the magic users actually using an outright electric staff. So kind of begs the question of how the game is going to end up actually handling the different elements, how it's going to handle the different skill trees. Can you end up going into magic and then there's going to be different skill trees for fire, water, and electricity? Or is that all just under the magic staff users repertoire, period, right? Then we get to see a nice little night scene right here. I love the fact that the nighttime is not pitch black in this game. It is still pretty dark, but it's not pitch black, which is the big thing. And then we get to see that there is a couple more ore over here. Obviously, the player is going in here to mine it. Get to see that torches do get to be planted on the ground, which is nice. But if we actually look at the ground here, are my eyes deceiving me, or is this a rail track? So potentially we're going to see mine carts actually added to the game. Are they going to end up being exclusive to players riding them, or right off the bat are we going to actually see them being used for resources? It would make more sense to actually use them as portable chests because of the way that ARK works. I'm expecting PixARK's going to be the same thing because I've actually seen the character menu as well, and we did get to see that weight and all of the same stats in ARK are going to end up making a reappearance in this game as well. So if you ended up having a minecart, that would be very, very useful instead of getting your character over capacity as far as the weight is concerned. You know, obviously you would run out of space in your inventory, right? Then we get to see this player over here with a cosmetic pacifier in their mouth, which looks absolutely ridiculous. But most of all, I'm really liking the way that this house is looking like it's either been destroyed, maybe recently griefed, or it's still under construction. And we get to see on the wood pillars over on this side that both of these are the exact same style, but they're different colors. So I'm wondering whether or not you can actually paint blocks, you know, hashtag confirm, question mark, or if this is just because it's made out of two different types of wood. But one thing that I find really interesting is that in the PixARK trailer, we ended up seeing what I'm assuming is straw foundation blocks, right? Now we actually get to see wood foundation blocks, I'm assuming anyways, just because these ones are actually full blocks, whereas the straw ones looked like little tables. Foundation blocks you're gonna have to put down on the ground before you can end up making a build. That's just how PixARK works. Because it's how ARK works. It's not necessarily how Minecraft works. One thing that we are seeing, though, very frequently in all of the builds that these guys are doing, like the developers and stuff, is they always put the foundation blocks just flat on the ground rather than digging one block down to make the world, like to make the house flush with everything else. And one thing that I have noticed in all the screenshots and video and stuff, well, mostly videos, not screenshots, is that players actually have to jump up blocks rather than just being able to walk up them. So it could be a little bit annoying having to jump into your house every single time. That said, put some stairs down. We do get to see a couple crafting tables over here, though, so that's really cool. Not exactly sure what they're going to be used for, and then a wooden house on the right. And then this also right here apparently is implied that this is player-made. So again, I'm wondering whether or not this is going to end up being a raid dungeon, or they're just trying to show off this is something that you can build, right? But either way, it's very, very cool to say the least, right? And then we get to see the screenshot right here where we get to see 4 players using jetpacks. We already knew jetpacks were going to be into the game because the Steam page ended up having images of it. I'm not exactly sure if I talked about that in a video though. But the thing that I'm wondering is this going to end up being an end game tier item, very similar to how Tech Armor was with ARK, or is this going to end up being something that's a little more affordable? Hopefully it's not going to end up being something where it's like, oh, dude, you need a jetpack, you need to craft the fuel as well, which would be quite disgusting. And now we're going to be looking at some of the older screenshots. These, of course, are from Chinese websites, so you're going to see a weird little logo in the bottom right and stuff. And generally, these screenshots are going to be a little bit blurry, so I'm going to try and do what I can to I don't know, like zoom in and hopefully it's not too gross for you guys, but we get to see a new type of, I'm assuming raid boss creature, or maybe it's just a mini boss in general, because we get to see it kind of stomping around and definitely looks like a unique monster. Haven't seen anything like that in ARK, so I'm excited about that. And then we get to confirm that frogs are going to end up being in the game. I'm so hyped about that because I wasn't exactly sure whether that tameable mount from ARK was going to end up coming into PixARK, because I never saw anything referencing it. But it's really cool that they're gonna be in PixARK, and the fact that you can actually put like vanity items on them. And I mean, generally I actually like the way that they look here better than they do in ARK, because now they actually look more like Slippy the Toad and stuff. And then we get to see that little armadillo from ARK, whatever it's called, you know, where it goes into its shell. It's almost invulnerable, and it's really, really good for gathering stone. We also get to confirm that players do get to tame golems, so that's really, really cool. Not exactly sure if they're going to end up being very similar to ARK, where you gotta knock them out with a cannon or some type of catapult, or if you can just end up knocking them out with the same old stuff. Then we get to see the same character facing off against a Cyclops, and maybe it's just me, maybe I'm overanalyzing this, but look at the Cyclops' shoulder. Does that look like a player's mining helmet? Because if it is, then that does mean we are going to see Cyclopses as another tameable creature in the game, despite the fact that every other screenshot and piece of footage implies that these might just be an exclusive enemy creature that you can't tame. So, you know, again, this might not actually be a mining helmet, because obviously it looks really, really big compared to the other character that's right beside it, but maybe that's just got to do with the angle or the perspective. Hopefully we're going to see tameable Cyclops, because that would be really, really cool. Then we get to see this swag-looking character in some vanity clothes standing next to, I'm assuming, a really impressive crafting table that might be for like blood magic, or most of all just like spells in general, or some type of stats table. And then we get to see this book, which I'm assuming this has gotten more specifically to focus on like magic spells and crafting of that regard, because I'm guessing there's going to be different crafting tables for each of the different skill trees. Maybe that's how it actually works. But we do get to see in the background a metal structure, so metal housing is going to definitely be a thing, although we kind of did know about that. A trike actually destroying the environment, that's awesome, because now we can confirm that dinosaurs that you mount anyways can actually destroy the environment, and hopefully they're going to be able to destroy the environment while you're fighting them as well, because we haven't seen anything implying that up to this point. This one's really cool because we get to see powered structures. So we actually got to see the dodo cages as well as the anteater cage in another video. Like in the video footage that was showing off the gardening and stuff, right? So it's cool that we get to see that these are going to end up being functional tables. Not exactly sure how they're going to work though. I'm assuming you craft it, put it down, and then you have to supply the creature into it, because we get to see a raptor on a raptor hamster wheel as well, most likely providing electricity. And then the scariest monster in the entire game, these weird smiling poop creatures that are just hanging out in this water tank. Not exactly sure what resource they're producing. And then let's get to this, last but not least. If you end up going to PixARK on the Steam page, obviously it's just going to say that the game is going to be releasing in March 2018. That's all it really says. But if we go to the wish list, you can actually see that it says March 27th. Now, this is really, really cool because somebody had to manually punch this in. Because if they don't punch it in, it just would say March 2018. Or in most instances, we'll default to the last day of the month when Steam doesn't actually know what day the game is going to be releasing. So March 27th, folks, is when we're going to be able to get our hands on PixARK. Absolutely hyped about that, and I hope that you are as well. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Very much appreciate it. Most of all, again, I wanted to take this video as an opportunity to show you all the screenshots that I ended up finding. And then otherwise, for the most part, we're probably going to end up not talking about anything in regards to PixARK until the game ends up coming out, unless something like really, really hype is just like, whoa, we got to talk about this. But for the most part, probably going to end up seeing you around March 27th, right? In either case, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, favorite, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you're interested in seeing me do a PixARK series, because it is going to end up being a thing. Links will be in the description to my merch store, as well as GawkBox, which is a way that you can donate and support to me for absolutely free. Sign on and stay epic, everybody.